Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Eternal Cylinder stream, the developer stream. My name is Jenesee from Good Shepherd Entertainment, and today I have with me Edmundo Bordeo, the art director and technical artist from Ace Team, who's here to join us and talk all about all your art questions. So we've been gathering them, and we will continue to gather them throughout the stream. So go ahead and ask anything you want to know. But we're going to start with a contest that we had recently. So those of you in Discord should be very familiar with this. There is a fragment of a story in the lore here. It is part of the Trebum genetic memory, and it suggests that celestial Chihuahua are not native to this planet, but have come here in response to a song sung by the Trebum. So think about that for a second, and we're going to talk to Edmundo and just see how you're doing today. So what's up? Thanks for joining the show, Edmundo.
Hi,
Hey.
hi.
Hey, happy Friday. Hope you're doing awesome.
Yes, it's good. It's Friday, and I'm happy to be here to answer any questions. And I'm going to present also a little bit of the technical art part of the game later.
Awesome. Well, before we get started too much into the art and in our contest and all the fun things we have to share, can you tell people more about what an art director does and specifically as a technical artist? Like, what does that mean for those who don't know much about the gaming industry?
Art director kind of defines the overall look for the game. Like sometimes if you create some assets that kind of are guidelines for other artists to create more stuff that is kind of in the same style. You will definitely do some concept art, and you also work a lot in relation story and visuals. Make sure that they're both working together. And technical artist is more like the practical things of how to achieve a specific things and make sure that kind of everyone is kind of working together with the same tools and that the end result performs well on whatever hardware and that it looks kind of how you envisioned it.
Awesome. Okay, so keep your questions kind of around that stuff if you're thinking of any in the live stream right now. We do have some on Discord, which we'll get to in a minute. But hopefully, you guys have been considering the song that the Trebum might have sung to the Celestial Chihuahua. And we have people who have given us lyrics for some really amazing songs. They don't have music to them, but we'll see what we can do about that. But to get us in the mood, would like to play for you a song by Good Shepherd's own Jimas, who has recorded Trebum Song number 3, just so you can get into the mood. So go ahead, Edmundo, play that for
Okay.
everyone if you would.
There once was a world in a distant place with a cylinder rolling in fast space. We Trebons just hatched and now must run so we won't become jam. Who? Soon may the Travala come to save us from the mathematician. One day when the game is done, we'll see how this goes on.
Okay, so that was
There you go.
a fun song.
Okay, I hope you all enjoyed that. I'm looking at you on Twitch to see what you think. But we're gonna go to the winners of this contest. So Anna Sol 1987 has a version of the song about pretty good. I'm gonna let you do this. Edmundo, go ahead and share. You can read it dramatically if you care to. However you
Let's
would like to share
see.
that.
So let's find it's this one. Okay. So this is way out of my skill set, singing or or anything like that. But okay. O great servants of the skies, hear our song. O great crown of crystal, how mighty is your power. Our ancient, mutually beneficial relationship has withstood the terrible abomination for billions of years. Hear our song and rend us aid. Hear our song and rend aid. O great crown of crystal, how mighty is your power. This one I really like that it kind of gets bits of the lore right. Like I don't remember if there's one of these lines that sounds very much like I know it's in an episode that's not in the beta, but no, maybe this detail was also in the beta. But I like how it kind of feels right in in the lore of the world.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I also hope you guys like the little gif of the trebum singing on the side there for you, just to give you some visuals to go with this. So good job, Anna Soul. So next we have Darth Mousemat. And they said they had a tune in mind that were a little bit shy to record it themselves. They're thinking of it like a melancholic traditional folk vibe. Um, and Edmundo, you sounded like you might sing this, and I really hope that you feel like
Uh,
doing that. No pressure, you don't have to, but if you feel like singing, just break out into song. It's
no,
fine.
I just felt that if it had a direction as to how it has to be read or sung, yeah, I'll try something. So,
Yay!
let's see. Our ancestors told, our ancestors told ancient tales and passed them down through time. Their children taught those tales to theirs through stories, songs, and rhyme. They speak of the Trowalda who watches over all. Yet in our time of greatest need, it's yet to hear our calls. The rolling wall that never sleeps moves closer by the day. We've no way through, nowhere to run, no choice but left to stay. Great ancient one up in the sky at heights we cannot reach. Please hear our cries before it comes and leaves none left to teach. We listen out for signals of times we hope you're sending. The ground will shake, the rain will fall with thunder never ending. My
Yay!
apologies for the singing, but
That was awesome. I love it. I love it. Okay, hopefully, Darth Mouse Matt, you enjoyed that actual singing rendition of
yes, if
the
you had
song.
sent your own recorded version, it would have been better for sure.
No, that was perfect. It's perfect. I was snapping along over here. Okay, so our last one is Nintendo Nate about the mathematician in particular. So go ahead and show that and read that if you'd care to.
Okay. The mathematician is coming. We need a strong force so we can be saved. The mathematician is coming, a helpful being from the stars or caves. The mathematician is coming, a large serpent descends, our savior. The mathematician is coming, the serpent is angered. The mathematician is here, the serpent is here, and the trebum are gone.
Well, that one's a little bit sad.
Yes, it's ominous. Like, yeah, the Tribum are not in very safe in this one.
That's true. And we start the beta after that point. So we'll see. We'll see what the future holds for the Troublem story in the final launched game later this year.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, later on, at the very end of the show, we have a special video by Sarmige, who will have another song similar to this, but they sent a video of them playing and kind of making their own music. So it's a little long. We'll have that at the very end for you guys to kind of kick off your weekend with. In the meantime, we're going to jump to Discord questions and what you've been asking this week. So, first one is from Dragon Master. They're asking, what about the hand that's above the cleanser? Is it just a prop or not? Maybe you want to explain to them what the cleanser is for people that can't visualize that by the name.
The cleanser is one of the minions of the mathematician, the one that looks like a truck with kind of a human torso behind it. And yes, the first time you encounter it, there's kind of a hand right kind of around this minion. So yeah, this is a very alien world. So we had kind of the problem of how do we make something that feels alien to this world. So say if you make a really strange creature, it feels like it belongs in that alien world because everything is so strange. So in a way, finding something that is from our world, like a human body part or something like that, that is what makes you feel, okay, this doesn't belong here. There's kind of something wrong here. So without getting into more kind of a spoilery territory of what you find out ahead, yeah, it's right that you kind of feel that this hand, this weird hand, and the minion kind of don't belong to this planet.
Okay, so that is the answer to Dragon Master's question. Hopefully, they feel good about that. Okay, so Walladeer Wants to know, will there be more biomes in the game other than savanna, desert, tundra, and question, which is what we're calling the other biome?
No, the kind of overworld, the exterior has those four biomes. Um, there's one other type of space, but that you might encounter, like for example, when you enter the Elder Caves or other areas which are not kind of in the exterior world. But biomes, yeah, it's the four main ones. Yes.
Cool. Okay, Tintan asks, how did you come up with the different trebum patterns? I think they mean the body patterns.
Well, for the body patterns, I actually have an image that I can share here. Um, we wanted to make sure that, well, no matter how a trebum is mutated, that you can always identify them by their patterns. So even if you get a skin mutation and stuff like that, the pattern should always somewhat be visible below it. And also, we wanted to make it that a trebum in the game, if wherever it is born, you can tell by their pattern that they're kind of distinctive families of patterns. So in this image, the ones on the left would be from the kind of savanna biome, and these always have kind of not camouflage necessarily, but more like animal patterns and stuff that looks more like they have colors that are kind of blend with the environment, like they belong to that environment. Um, the second group of trebon are from the ice or snow environment. And yeah, the snow in this game, the snowy environment is not like a cloudy kind of gray light space, but it's white but with splashes of color. So these trebum look almost like candy, like they have these swirls and very bright colors. And the third group is from the desert, and for these we allow them to have more like patterns that are more geometric and almost look like body paint, but it's actually the pigmentation from their own skin. Like that's how they look like. We
That
have
is very cool.
yeah, I showed just a subset of the patterns, but yeah, we have tons more.
They're asking if there will be specific colors for the question biome, and we're just not showing them today.
I'm not going to talk about that.
Ah ha ha! Here you go. Okay, so that's really cool. I don't think I've ever noticed that when you find a new trebum, that it depends where they're from and how they look. Neat. Okay, another one about the sky. The sky is such a beautiful aspect of the game, but it seems to have evolved significantly since the first prototype. How did this develop over time? We're gonna have a couple sky questions, but we can start with this one.
The sky, yeah, and the prototype, I remember we had this kind of a sky sphere where, well, the stars were kind of just painted on, and later like, the sky has many layers now. Say the stars, it's very hard to notice, but they're animated, like you can see them kind of twinkle a bit, and they're made with geometry. We have the layer that's kind of the background layer that really, yeah, we spend a lot of time kind of on the background image, on the clouds, and make sure that each biome has kind of different sets of colors, so that it's yeah, changing the lighting changes so much the feel of the environment. And there's the clouds layer on top of that, and yeah, I think the prototype had only checked kind of the background with the painted on stars. And yeah, kind of tweaking values about the sky, the fog colors, and just how they blend with each other was took a really long time, and I'm glad that oh, I'm missing other layers, like the sky. Even in the prototype, we didn't have the kind of the flying objects. say asteroids, or there we added a few more kind of celestial objects to the sky. So yeah, since half of your screen sometimes when you're outdoors is going to be sky, kind of paying attention to that half of the screen and always making it interesting is important. Yeah.
A further question about the sky from SMJ James. Did you create the giant orbiting silvery blue cube structure in the sky? It's in a couple of our screenshots. They're asking if it has a purpose, like being a space station, or is it a surrealistic object in the sky? They understand if it's a spoiler and you can't share. I don't think it's probably visible right here, but it's in a couple screenshots.
Carlos is responsible for this one. It wasn't mine, and it is like it's not a planet. It's more like a moon. Like it's not planet sized, and its function is more or less that of a moon, but rather than a moon that reflects light from the sun, it's a moon with its own kind of light source. So it will light the night sometimes. Yeah, so it is a celestial object that is kind of always rotating around this planet. I can't remember if it kind of cycles the planet once for every 2 cycles of the sun, or I remember it was something like that. That it was a 1 cycle for every two of another celestial object.
Very neat. Okay, now to talk more about screenshots that none of you can see. This is a lore cultural question. Did you also direct the art for the cultural and technological stuff related to the Trebums? I guess they're kind of wondering how much of the lore ends up into things like the tundra shrines, and the little statues, and some of the more interesting stuff in some of the things on the website.
For the lore of the technologies the Trebum have, well, we started with some guidelines as to what kind of technologies they had. And Jonas, the writer, definitely kind of, how do you call it, kind of beefed up or kind of improved a lot on the lore of different things. And even I reading his stuff, like descriptions of items and creatures, he added a lot more than what was originally kind of in the general guidelines we had for the lore. Say, for example, we know a lot of things that the Tremors kind of had in their technology before this kind of cataclysm, and you start as kind of these children Trebum at the beginning of the story who don't know anything. So in a way, you are discovering stuff as you play too. So they had kind of selective breeding to make their own plants. Well, since they have kind of control over things on a kind of biological level, the same way that they can kind of pick up things from the world and mutate, they can also use a little bit of that to kind of selectively create some organisms or modify them for purposes. Say, for example, there's a mushroom that only grows on these statues they have, and it is sort of like they engineered the mushroom or the statue to kind of work together. And as for the kind of more, not biological, but more kind of physical structures or more mechanical looking things, we also have a little bit of guideline as to what they use as energy sources, which the crystals definitely play a role in the story. And we also have an idea of how they kind of built these large stone structures. There's a drawing like much further ahead in the game about that kind of hints at how they built those. So yeah, it's great that that Jonas kind of wrote these descriptions about things that are kind of in this archaeological kind of style that is as if someone were traveling through this planet and discovering the thing and trying to explain it too.
Okay, well, that gives you guys something to talk about in Discord later, I think. Excellent. Keep asking your questions, and we're adding them to our doc here while you do. But in the meantime, I think it would be great to jump to your presentation. Edmundo has a lot of things to share with us today, with some visuals. So let's get into that and make sure that we have time for him to talk more about the technological challenges and some of the like cool stuff just to share from the game.
Okay. So this presentation is more about kind of technical stuff, like we might see like models and engine and shaders and stuff like that. And I'll pick just a few different examples of things that, as I described before, are kind of you want to achieve a visual thing and you have to kind of figure out how you're going to do it. So let's start with this introduction slide was just kind of to specify one of the big challenges is we have these main characters who can mutate and change shape a lot, but at the same time you have to be able to identify them based on kind of their skin, as I was talking before. And yeah, that video is playing very slowly. You're supposed to be seeing like all the different shapes and skins a Trevon can have. And I'm having a connection problem right now, but I'm hoping that you guys can still hear me. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. Oh, this is not moving forward. Sorry for the technical problems. And the slide is not
Okay.
moving
Flag
at
was
all.
Flag was having an issue. You okay now? You can hear everything.
Okay, now it's moving forward. Okay, we can go on. So the first visual technical challenge, fur. Yeah, fur is always difficult, like to make it perform well on all hardwares and look good. So we needed to find a solution that was also kind of very versatile, because we have to apply it on all these different kind of body types and creatures, and yeah, there's kind of a lot of iterations for it. Wait, just a second. Yeah, the presentation just is not occupying the space I wanted. Oh no, I'm breaking everything. The magic
Oh no.
of live presentations. Give me just a second.
They're asking if you can turn, I guess, yourself up as well.
Oh,
They think
okay.
you're a little quiet.
Okay, sure. Hello, testing. No, I have the slider at 100%, so I'll
Okay.
try to just speak a little bit louder. Give me just a second because I broke the presentation, and we'll move quickly from there.
Well, now when we look at those when it comes back, we can think about where they might be from different biomes because now you've explained to us how their fur reflects that. So, you guys,
Uh-huh.
it'll be back in a second, hopefully. There we go.
Yeah, there, and everything is working now. Awesome.
Look at that.
Yeah, so I was talking about fur and how always you have to kind of find the balance between performance and how you're going to fake it to make it look kind of convincing. So in reality, fur usually will be kind of flat cards that have hair or fur texture, and you use enough of those to kind of cover the whole character and make it look convincing as fur. But the problem that I'm kind of highlighting here when you kind of use just those flat planes technique is that in the silhouette you can sometimes see that kind of a paper is just a paper and it's not very convincing as kind of fur. So what you do is, here is kind of on the left, just if you use a paper as fur, sometimes it looks flat and it's not convincing. So then what you can do is kind of do a crisscross so that it looks better from more angles. But better yet, you can make a shape that, and what's on the right is a shape that no matter from where you look at it, it looks furry and not like you kind of trick. If you use enough, you can trick the eye to not never see the flat planes. So yeah, here on the left we're kind of seeing a poor dismembered Trebum with a fur on top, and this is illustrating another problem when you're kind of using just flat planes for fur, is that the lighting, you can see those harsh kind of cuts between different planes intersecting. So you need to do something about the lighting of the fur to make sure that it's to kind of hide this kind of effect of a bunch of paper stuck to your character. And what we do is use the kind of directional information of the shape that's below, in this case the body, and use those directions to light the fur rather than the flat, simplified planes. And
They're asking about thief script. What
Oh.
does that mean?
Well, the 3D software we're using that I used for creating Trebum pieces was 3D Studio Max. And in 3D Studio Max, well, this script is for 3D Studio Max, and what it does is takes one object and it's normals. Normals is in a plane of geometry, the normal usually is kind of a line perpendicular to that plane, and that defines mostly how things are lit. So normally, the normal of a plane will be like that, but you can manipulate that normal to make it so that this plane, regardless of independent from its orientation, so to speak, lights differently. So what this normal thief script does is, what we're doing there is taking the normals from the body and passing those normals to the fur geometry. If you had to do that by hand, you would have to, I don't know, select every single plane and move the normals by hand, and that would be really, really time consuming. But just passing the normals from one object to the other is what that script automates and really helped us make the fur much, much faster.
Aha. Darth Mousemat is asking, how much strain does that put on the rendering bits because of the number of all those in a closed space?
This is actually a very efficient hair technique. Because, yeah, when in this previous slide where I was showing just kind of finding the minimal shape, like just three triangles, to make a kind of clump of fur look good. If you do it with only kind of the single planes and try to cover the entire character, you need to use so many more to hide kind of the defects. So yeah, this is very efficient as a hair rendering technique. Like if you see now, say, Unreal Engine has a new method of rendering hair where each strand is actually rendered as an individual strand. And it looks amazing, but it's much more expensive to render, of course.
Okay.
And yeah, there's the results again. Yeah, the next slides were more just kind of about what I was explaining about manipulating normals, that grass can have the similar problems to what I was talking about hair, where you can, if your normals are not kind of controlled by you, you can see that typical effect where you have kind of two billboards crossing and you can see the harsh lines. So for the grass, we do similar things where the grass, when you want to render a whole lot of grass, you want the geometry to be as simple as possible. And you can manipulate the normal so that the kind of contrast between the lighting of this flat plane and the floor is not so contrasty, so you can blend the grass more easily with the floor. Yeah, this was just another example where, again, we're manipulating the normals, like the lighting direction of things like effects. So they also kind of blend a little bit better with the lighting conditions of the scene. because sometimes smoke effects, and in the game some smoke effects are volumetric, like it actually kind of has depth where you could take different slices of the effect and it's a volume smoke effect. But other smoke effects are more like a card that's always kind of facing the screen, and when an effect is just a card and it's being lit, it might show that it's not receiving light in a very kind of a convincing way. So you can also manipulate the normals of effects if you want them to kind of match better what's happening in the scene.
Very interesting.
Let's see. Um, I almost didn't want to show this slide because I don't like seeing the trebum like that, divided into little pieces.
Dissected into pieces.
But yeah, since we have these characters who can that so many different iterations of the characters, we needed to find kind of a system to make that more manageable. And what we decided on was that all pieces could kind of be on any placement and orientation, but that we had to kind of respect a certain kind of connection frontier between different pieces. So eye pieces will connect on this ring, and leg pieces will connect on a specific ring, and we can move them around. And one of the things that make your trebum look most different is the body shape, because it moves all the other pieces around. But that we would make sure to kind of have these rings always kind of define how different pieces connect. That really helped us. That if we wanted to design a crazy leg that was completely different, as long as it comes out of this ring, it's not a problem. The next slides are kind of just a little details you do to hide the seams. Even when you're super strict about keeping everything well connected, you might see kind of discontinuities in either the texture or the lighting. And yeah, there's something you can do on the shader, which is okay, so I was talking about this, how you might have these seams that you want to hide, and in this case we just kind of do a little translucent blend of the material right on the horizon where they're meeting the two pieces. The next one is about blending stuff with the terrain. We initially had this, and I think I'm showing a mutation that's not in the beta. That's a mutation that allows you to blend in with the terrain. So when solving this problem, we actually got kind of a lot more out of it than just solving the problem for this mutation. The system we ended up using to have the trebums blend with the terrain, we used it for a bunch of other things. So what we used it for was, imagine this scene where we have kind of these structures clipped with like just connected with the ground. It looks so much better when you can kind of blend the floor terrain and have kind of the snow or whatever kind of contaminate a little bit the color of the thing that's right on top of it. It kind of makes it so much more convincing and grounded to have it feel natural like that before and after. And here's another example of the same thing, of being able to blend things better with the terrain. And a third example where this kind of ice shader especially, it's supposed to be translucent, so if it kind of takes a little bit of the color of the land beneath it, it looks so much better. So kind of the technical side of how we made this. Right now, Unreal Engine has a feature that does all of these things. So this game, we started it much like years ago. So we developed a whole system that, in the end, the guys at Epic made their own system, which is already integrated to the engine. So from this little talk, I would recommend anyone to kind of reproduce this because the engine already comes with all of this. But we made our own version, and it works great. So,
Oh, no.
but it is a little bit frustrating when you make a really sophisticated thing and then someone else does it too and publishes first. But well, that's how it works. So what the system does is it captures with a camera like the terrain, and it captures the color information, kind of the orientation like for the lighting information, and it captures the height of the terrain. And with that information, you have enough to kind of do all these blending things because you also know the height of the object, and you can, on the material, make this blend using the landscape color and blending it up to the object color. But another interesting thing we did with this information is that we get almost for free information for a bounced light. So you can see here that the trebum has kind of the color from the ground is lighting the trebum from below, as if the sunlight hit the ground, bounced up, and kind of colors things from below. And usually calculating kind of these light bounces can be very expensive in real-time lighting engines. But since we already have kind of the whole floor rendered into a texture and that color information, the height information, we can fake bounced light almost for free. We are already kind of incurring in that cost of rendering the floor. So yeah, I think I have a before and after for this. And we're not worried about making super realistic lighting. Sometimes we will do things with more like with artistic controls where the lighting, in reality, we're making it a little bit more saturated than it would be in real life. Just because you're trying to achieve kind of a cool look for the lighting.
By the way, they're getting very excited because this is the question mark biome, which they have not seen before. So
Oh.
they're trying to trick you into like rotating it so you can see what's happening behind that rock.
This is a screenshot, so I cannot rotate it. Sorry. Okay, so moving on to the next bit. This one is, yes, specifically about the crystal skin, which I think I'm also spoiling. I don't think it's in the beta. But the problem we're trying to solve here is you have all these different body parts and with all these different skins, and since each skin can change all the body parts, it becomes one of these exponential problems where I cannot really model every body part again just because we decided to introduce a new skin. So we have to make something that's more procedural, or something that kind of depends more on the material, but we'll still change the look of the character. So we had to, just changing the material, make the kind of crystal trebums look very, very distinctive. And one cool thing about the method we used is that without kind of having to have hand-authored textures, it looks very kind of sharp, very like the edges where the creases of the crystal are have to be perfectly sharp for it to look like a crystal. So what we did was kind of simplify the information of the surface using a technique that, first I'm going to show it kind of in 2D, like if you took an image and kind of took out information. Say, for example, a gradient is a ton of information where you could draw it as a curve. If instead you turn it into a stairs where it jumps to the next level of information and it jumps to the next level of information, rather than have all those intermediate values, like doing that in a 2D image is very easy. And here you're seeing an example where this image on the left with all those gradients, you just turned it into I don't know, 4 levels, or in that example, how many there are? Yeah, 5 levels of brightness for red, green, and blue. That same process of simplifying information, you can do it with the normals of the character, like the directions of the surface. So if you take a sphere and simplify the information of a sphere has infinite different gradients of directions on its surface, but you simplify it to only left, top, right, or however many levels you want to simplify it as, you get these perfect kind of frontiers between the different faces of the crystal. And this little animation you're seeing on the right is just a technical thing that you don't need to kind of simplify the information of the character in the world, but you need to do it on the character before he's animated, so that when he rotates, he's not kind of the faceted kind of shape is not being recalculated as he rotates, but is more like integrated into the model before he rotates. So the one on the right is the correct one, and the one on the left feels a bit more as if it were kind of a cell shading. You have seen maybe some games where the lighting is not a gradient, but it feels more like it's in different kind of slices. The one on the left feels more like artificial, like cell shading lighting, rather than it being a concrete object, like a carved crystal. And yeah, here we have an example of just one of the layers of information we can extract. You can see those gradients where, since I'm taking the difference between kind of the original normals and the modified, simplified ones, you get where there's the most difference between them is the flat areas, and where there's the least difference are the edges of the crystal. So we use that information to kind of contaminate, so to speak, the skin of the trebum, the decals, the patterns, so that it feels a bit more like the crystal kind of affected the pattern below. So again, it's a way to create a texture just from shader trickery, rather than having to paint a specific texture for each variation.
They're asking if albedo is the name of your trebum or name of a member
Oh,
of the team.
albedo is how they, in some engines they call it diffuse color, in other engines they call it albedo color. It's albedo is what you think of as purely color, like in a picture you have lighting information, roughness information. Albedo is strictly color. So for example, I remember seeing on a science paper that it was about global warming, that the albedo of the earth is reflecting more light because of the snow. Like white snow is albedo is its whiteness makes it reflect more light, basically. So no, you can rename your own trebum. So in the game, you can name your own trebum albedo if you like the name.
Yes, now all the trebums will be named albedo. You've done this.
This, I'm sure you have seen, that you can turn into a little ball with any trebum. And it's a similar problem to what we had where we don't really model another version of every trebum turning into a little ball. And also just kind of having your trebum and bending him to try to turn him into a ball. They have very different shapes, and sometimes you can't really achieve the ball shape. So we needed to have kind of some way of making them more round, more ball-like. And we also did this in the shaders. Shaders again are kind of the material definitions of the surfaces, where you can do not just define what the surface looks like, but you can do things like transform the surface using maths and stuff like that. So actually making a sphere is very easy maths wise, because you just have a point, and at a fixed distance from that point, there is that frontier is a sphere. So since we just kind of put a point on the center of the trebum, and we know this imaginary sphere where it would be, and we know the difference between the trebum's actual surface and this imaginary sphere. So that difference just allows you to kind of, with a slider, spherify anything you like. And we can use that information for another couple of things, like, oh, it stopped looping, but you could see this. There it went, so it goes again. When a trebum sucks something in, we use that kind of spherify effect to have the things travel up the trebum's trunk. And the glick balls, which are these kind of heads that live inside of a sphere, we also find the information of that kind of imaginary sphere's frontier, and make sure that the head, rather than simulate something super sophisticated like, okay, this is a squishy head and we put a collider on the surface of the sphere, and like usually that would be very kind of expensive to simulate real time. But if the frontier is a perfect sphere, it's really easy to do this in the shader, and say, for example, the tongue of the creature, even if it's animated kind of going through the wall of the sphere, this will make sure that the head is always contained inside of the little ball.
Edmundo, you've been holding out on me with these gifts. I love this glid ball gift. It's amazing.
And yeah, this is just if you use Unreal Engine, just the specific kind of network of things you would have to do on the shader. But yeah, it's a little bit too technical. And as we have been talking about normals before, yeah, usually in a shader, affecting something's shape and affecting something normals, or the way it lights, is done separately. So yeah, this diagram was just to show that also the glick ball, when they hit the wall, say when you press something against a glass, it becomes really flat, so all the surface information needs to kind of be flattened to make it a little bit more convincing. And yeah, that's everything I had about the game. Yeah, the last slide, it was about just when you model in low, like all models, you have a really high version, super detailed, but the one that's used in the game has much fewer polygons for it to perform well. So just how you build that low poly geometry, even though you're going to project the super high density information into the low polygon model, how you build those low polygon models matters. It makes some things look just a little bit more polished. And I illustrated this with this slide where those 4 cubes, they are all valid cubes to use, but when you do some certain effects on top of them in the shader, it looks different even if they're all just cubes. So in this example, I'm just projecting textures from all the sides, and it's a typical effect you use when you want to have a detailed texture or something like that. And yeah, it looks wildly different. Say in this example, I'd say the second one doesn't look good because the textures are projecting all weird. And to fix those normals, it takes a lot of work. And just illustrating it in a simple example in the game, something like that can look very artificial, like two surfaces meeting like that with a razor sharp edge, like it feels very artificial. In nature, everything always is a little bit rounded. Um, those perfect surfaces, you only find them in kind of something extremely artificial. So just building the geometry with a couple more kind of edge loops so that it can shade and kind of create that curvature in the edge is sometimes much easier to just create that simplified geometry with those extra edges rather than have to build the high polygon version and have to kind of make a custom built kind of prop just for to mask that edge. And yep, that's it. Thanks for watching.
That was super interesting. Hopefully, everyone learned a lot more about the back behind the scenes creation of a lot of things that you've loved playing. Let's take a couple more questions before we wrap up. These are not particularly technological questions, but they're things that might be fun anyway. So let's see. Zergologist 47 asks, how many Trebum families existed before the cylinder? Like, was this a whole society, or what can you say if you don't want to spoiler whatever you choose to say there?
Oh, there was a whole society. So how many? It's too many. I have no idea. Like it would be one of those numbers that are too large for me to kind of easily kind of figure out. There was a whole society, and yeah, what you're seeing kind of in the game at the beginning is after the cataclysm already kind of really diminished the Trebum civilization.
When you're creating the Trebum animations and all of the rigging and everything you're doing there, what inspired you? That's what they're asking. As for movements.
Carlos is the one who made the first animations, and yeah, you always want there to be kind of a physically convincing aspect to animations, but also the Trebum are kind of cute, like in a way. They didn't need to be super realistic. For some animations, we kind of do a little bit of squish and squash, which is something that you associate more to something cartoony. But yeah, to go into any more detail, I would have to ask animators.
Okay. Referring to your slideshow, SMJ James says, we spotted a green Tungle Groplet body on the intro. Is that just a little older version of the Mixer Bomb mutation before it went blue, or is that a unique thing?
That was an earlier version, yes, because the mutation that allows you to mix things has the blue backside. I think maybe we changed which one of the creatures was going to give you the mutation, so we changed it to blue to make it consistent with how it actually works. Yes.
Aha. Okay, so I think we've wrapped up the questions for today. Thank you so much, Edmundo, for joining us to talk more about art. And I think you have something special to share from Sarmi J on our way out. This was a submission for the contest for the Song of the Trebum. They really went all out for this, so we're gonna close with this. Join us on Discord for the roundtable discussion, which is now open, and our subject for today is the tuba tuber plant and its particular sound. Yeah, so come hang out with us. Another 2 weeks from now, we'll have a further stream on Friday at the same time. So make sure you follow the channel and get updates when we do go live. And let's end with Sarmi J.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks.
The Eternal Cylinder contest with Sarmi Spancu on the violin and Yanis Spancu on the piano. We're from Romania. The Eternal Cylinder Contest with Sarmi Spancu on the violin and Yanis Spancu on the piano. We're from Romania.